Okay, so we'll go ahead and kick this off. If you guys are new here, I'm Kristen, Executive Director of FirstHome IQ, and here with co-founder, chair of our organization, Dave, and really excited today to introduce Mosi. She is on our board and has just been very involved. And as we have grown FirstHome IQ, been friends for a long time and just very passionate about kind of the message that you bring, Mose, and the work that you do. So thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love you guys just for the work that you do and everything that you put out for LOs in the business to be able to utilize.
Dave, do you want to give a little bit of an introduction as we get started?
Yeah, no, I am so excited about this because Mosaic, I think you really stand out as someone who knows how to talk and connect. I mean, it's your language, it's your vibe, but you do an incredible job of getting people into home ownership. And I've been nerding out a lot around just how not good job we do in America and just how many people qualify for home ownership, but because they have misconceptions around down payment, credit, you name it, they're not in the game. And so I can't wait to hear you share your words, share language, and help our industry, do better.
Cool.
And as we're getting started, I would love to hear you talk, Mose, a little bit about kind of how like you've become known as the person that's really good at reaching first-time home buyers. And you've talked a lot about kind of language and how to better understand today's home buyer. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how that came about for you and kind of why you're passionate about that.
I have a household full of kids. And when it came time a few years ago for my daughter to be able to buy a house, she's heard me talk about home ownership. She's heard me on the phone with buyers going over credit for years. I mean, literally since she was, toddling around. But what I found is what I was saying, what I was advertising, it didn't connect with her. It wasn't on her terms. And I really started to analyze and break down how I was coming across to younger generations. I'd say probably age 25 to 45. Um, and it was just old. Like if I can just sum it all up, it was very old. And I get it. I am in fact closer to 50 than I am to 45. And I think our industry is at large. So a little bit of what we've lost is the ability to evolve our craft along with the evolving home ownership or possible home ownership base. So I realized that I didn't need permission from the agencies, not HUD, not Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, to maybe choose the words that I selected to be able to connect with people, not just so they understand. I'm not talking just from a fundamental, well, let me say this so you can understand it. But a lot of the terms in mortgage were kind of established back in the 1960s when fair housing came about and they started doing education. And I'm like, how can I not just soften it, but maybe make it something that fits the times right now and how people consume information and data to be able to connect with them more, and not just for a social media presence, but across all platforms, anything in print, anything that represents me and the fact that I want to get people into ownership.
Well, and I think this relates so much to the trust factor that we talk a lot about for Home IQ. And in the research study, the Next Gen Homebuyer Report in January, we saw that only 20% trust loan officers to help them make smart decisions about their mortgage. And I think, language has a huge part of that or plays a role in how people build trust.
I agree with you 110%. It's just, I think we sound like we're just recycling the same language, the same information. We talk a lot of jargon and acronyms, and I know people need to be educated. I agree with that 100%. But the way they consume information now, they're walking around with a supercomputer in their hands. They don't see that as education. Education seems arduous. It seems like they're back in a classroom. And if you're talking, and again, I've been out of school long enough to where to me, it's like, oh, I'm going to sit online and do a class. I have to do continuing education. I have oodles of it to do, and I'm depressed about it already. So we make it seem like such a chore to learn about housing. how can we evolve that a little bit to where it's more of being edutained, or we just drop the word education all the way and maybe change it to I'm giving them game. I'm passing on some keys, some game, and passing it on. Just like if you were just in the room, you're going to walk away with something. And when I've done that, people have taken that away and I get more referrals from it. And people will say, oh my God, you spoke to my soul, like my household, who I am as a person. I knew exactly where you were coming from without you getting too high level. But I, in fact, do explain everything to them in the process.
Hey, I know we're going to get into like scripts and how to do it. You've been around a lot of loan officers that are just not doing it right and probably observe like what not to do.
Mhm.
What are some of the don't do this, don't do that, and talk frankly to the mortgage industry around what we need to stop doing as an industry.
Stop doing. I think recycling that old information, maybe. Um, I, man, I don't, I also don't feel that if you're talking to diverse communities, you don't necessarily have to call them minority communities. You don't have to say that the benefit of diverse communities owning is generational wealth. It doesn't resonate with them. You turned their brain off when you said it. We know that that happens, but today they want wealth because it's different. It's again a fair housing term is when it came about. Okay, great. We're letting everybody buy houses. We want to encourage people of diversities to buy houses. So this term was generated, and we just never got rid of it. But my children, and this is a little bit of a personal story. My great grandfather was a sharecropper in Texas. And you know what? My daughter's like, oh, that's unfortunate. Anyway, can I get a house that's going to be affordable? She, it didn't mean anything to her. She doesn't care. I mean, they're too far away from freedom fighters and, they're not civil rights activists, even though they're diverse people. So it's something that they don't resonate with because they've never had generational wealth. So I think that you can show generational wealth in a photo, right? Grandmother, mother, child, and then maybe talk about how wealth building helps family in general, you know? And then some people just want to be cat ladies now. Okay. So if you want to be a cat lady, I'm all for it. Be a dog mom, dog dad, yay. Right. There's people that they're staying in school longer. They may not want to have kids. So when you assume that everything is based around generational wealth to get people in houses, that's not it today. It's older people's trajectory. It was my trajectory. And I had to stop talking to people like that, again, age 25 to 45, because they don't necessarily want a real estate like their parents did. So it's evolving that to where it's not like that. And Kristen knows I have a pet peeve for moving boxes too. I would I always say like why has the people holding moving boxes become the epitome of what home ownership should be? And they're like perfectly coiffed hair, like full face of makeup, right? They look like they just walked into a photography studio holding moving boxes that are totally clean and don't say Amazon on the side, right? Because that's where my boxes come from. They say Amazon, they say U-Haul, they say something, but these clean moving boxes don't signify home ownership. So really make it something that's emotional. We have to put emotion into our advertising and connection to these people because just like you and me, when we're online and we're swiping, you pause for things that resonate with you, the way you live, the way you work, the way you play. And we don't really show that much in mortgage. It is the standard people carrying boxes or someone holding keys. Like nobody holds their keys like that. That doesn't mean anything. It lacks that. So I would say don't do the fake stuff, right? The artificial poses and things that we've done in the past and move to something that's more impactful and it has emotion and you get people to connect with you more.
Yeah, I've always felt that way about the white picket fence, like that, and the keys, absolutely. And when you search for images in home ownership or home buyers, you're getting all of those, and I feel like it's no longer just that doesn't resonate. For a lot of people, it's like, yuck, like this is not me. But for some people, it does resonate. So I am curious, like, from your perspective, how do you adapt these conversations? Because people are coming from, some people are the cat lady, some people are, living in apartments, some people are living in the standard, home. And I'm curious how you're adapting those conversations based on, where they're coming from, what their values are, and potentially even their financial literacy level. And I know that's also a word you probably wouldn't use.
Evangelist. Well, again, resonate, and you have to gauge who your audience is. And I gave you an age range for the purpose of what might be good for me, because I get it. I've been around a while, right? 49 years old, just about. So someone who's younger than me is going to look at you like literacy, like I'm not illiterate, right? So maybe that class isn't for me. It's because of how you framed it. People will mentally opt out from what you're putting out there. If you do a credit class, if they feel they have good credit, and I say this with love, I've had people come to me that have a 480 FICO score in the last 30 days, and they don't feel they need credit help. So if you were to do a credit class, you might not even get that person into it. It has to be someone that feels like they fit that mold that you set up. So niching down into something can be a little bit dangerous if you don't niche down on a broader, my range is 25 to 45 is what I look at. That's my age range. So I'm niching down on that and not specifically an attribute, to them, if that makes a little bit of sense.
So let's try to
Ask,
get.
tell me more. How about that? Tell me more. I want to ask, tell me more 5 times minimum is what I like to ask. And it's before an application. I guess I stopped taking what was a traditional application. I'm talking to people and saying, if I'm referred them to an agent, by an agent or a builder, I say, hey, do you have a few minutes to talk about the process? Great. Maybe 15, 20 minutes. During that, it's my discovery. I put away my keyboard. I'm not typing. I have a notepad, and I want them to tell me more. I want to know who's living with them now, who's on their lease with them now, what they prefer. Do they commute a long time to work? I know it's not on the 1003, and trust everyone, I do not want a larger 1003. I will never advocate for a larger 1003, but I feel there's so many questions outside that technical 1003 that I can ask to learn a little bit more about this person, so I can gauge some of those things about their life that don't show up in you taking an application. To me, the application is the easy part. If I talk to them for 15 minutes, I say, okay, this is what happens next because you want to go forward. And now I need the application. We can stay on the phone for another 15 minutes. I can get the rest of the information that I need. Or if you don't have another 15 minutes back to back, I can send you my link. You can do it online. Which one is best for you? Again, I'm asking them to tell me, because some people, and that's another way that I say, which way do you want to go? So I have a high conversion rate of people that I talk to fully applying and getting into the process as well, because I'm giving them the ownership of this entire process, and then they feel seen and heard. But I also get a lot of great information that helps me pivot in my applications to be able to help them better in their process.
And real quick before you jump in, Dave, one thing that I've been talking a lot about lately is this overwhelm. Like people feel so overwhelmed with financial information. Over half, according to a recent report, said they're overwhelmed, and that results in shutdown. And what you're talking about is that like creating, it's the empathy, and that is going to be what helps you stay competitive in a world of AI and access to, unlimited information. When people are shutting down, you're pulling out their goals, you're expressing empathy and being very human, and that turns into conversion. So anyway, I just wanted to make that connection. I love that.
Yeah, and I want to call out just the tell me more script. Like it's not a script, it's a conversational flow, but I would really push everybody to write that one down. I mean, I'm going to add that to some sequences that I do, but tell me more, tell me more, tell me
It's
more.
like 5 times I end up saying it. I actually had to start counting myself and how many times I said, well, tell me more about this. Well, tell me more. I have such a great understanding. I know what I draw out in that conversation. It literally takes 15 minutes. It's like the intro to the app, because what will be left on the application is the give me your social, date of birth. I already know your name. Give me your address, how long you've lived there. And then let's clarify the things on your job, because you already told me what you did for a living. Like it's literally a 30-minute total process, but it's, I'm getting so much out of it. If they're renting, for instance, on the 1003, it doesn't get down to who lives with them. I found that people, even if you make 4,000 a month and you're leasing right now, everybody over 18 has to go on the application. I had to think about this in my real world life. My mother lives with me because I moved her in a few years ago, just so I wouldn't have to go check on her living somewhere else. My daughter, that's 22, still lives at home. Both work. If I was to go apply for an apartment right now, my daughter with her income would be on my application. My mom with her income would be on my application as well. So you have people that can rent $3,000 houses because of the total income. But I would get rejected if I asked for a cosigner because they don't qualify at loan. And then they are thinking maybe this isn't true because I got my rental at this same payment and there's no difference. So it's not on the 1003, but I get to ask them, how much do you pay in rent? Great. Who else is on your lease with you? Are any of those people moving in with you? Great. Are there any other people helping you make this home buying decision? I want to know who my ghost buyers are. Is Nana gonna hop into the fold in a couple weeks and say, no, 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 don't do that mortgage. I remember I had a mortgage like that that was an arm and it got me in trouble. Or, oh, everybody's gonna hop in later. So I want to know the stakeholders in their journey as well up front. So I could either bring them in to attend meetings, talk to them, or when I'm going over estimates and things like that, which is a huge part of what I do is in giving options, I can get Nana involved up front. What did your Nana think? Do you want to get her on this call with us so we can go over it? Does she want to come in the next time you come? So I'm giving them more ownership of the process. They're more vested, number one. And number two, man, the referral pipeline for that is huge. It's huge.
So I want to get a couple very like real world scripts that I know that our ambassadors in our community, like if they got this from you, they could get into more first time home buyer conversations with their database, with the people that they connect with. So before I ask my question, I want to remind this audience, guys, this is a mastermind. If you have questions for one of the three of us, or just you have a question for Mosi, put it in chat. We would love to have this be more interactive. If you're watching this on YouTube and you have questions, we'll make sure we get those answered. Just put those down below. But one of the things we're trying to do is get our ambassadors and the people that really want to win with first-time home buyers, talking to people in their database and getting more first-time home buyer conversations. So I mean, every parent wants to help their kid own their home, whether they have the means to help them financially, they have the means to help them educationally and inspirationally. What would be some scripting if you were just calling a database of past customers or people you've talked to and you wanted to get some first-time home buyer opportunities? How would you do it?
So because I've been using the tell me more, I always focus on something that we discussed that was within their goals. So I think that we all have some level of conversation already about what they wanted, and I'm really good at noting my database for what was their pain point. So in my tell me more, I always ask them what their payment goal range would be, right? What's their dream payment goal range? Not that I was going to hit it or anything, but I wanted to know. And then I would also ask them what's their comfort level with coming out of pocket to be able to purchase? Like, how much have you saved so far? So one easy path of least resistance is to be able to pick up the phone and hit on one of those things that they said that were important to them and tell them how that may have evolved over the past few months. We have a lot of people we may have talked to that payment goal, hey, it was just blown out of the water. It didn't hit the mark. With rates going down, you can pull them up, look at what you quoted them before, maybe see how they're impacted today and be able to make that phone call and say, hey, last time we talked, your payment wasn't really hitting the mark. Got some great news. Some things have changed a little bit, and I'd love to have the opportunity to go over it with you or get you this information because we're getting closer to that goal that you had. Again, I'm calling them with something that does something for them. They told me it was important to them. It's not important if I call and say, I'm just checking in. I sound like the cousin that wants to borrow $20, right?
What about you're calling someone and they're a parent, and they have kids in their teens or 20s, and you want to get into a conversation around, what's their like me, my script was just, hey, what's your plan? Or do you know what your kids' plans are for home ownership? And
Great one.
anything I can do to help. How would you get into that conversation and have a conversation with a family, starting with the parents, to get that conversation going? How would you do that?
Basically being able to, very similar to what you said, just calling them and letting them know what's going on now. I always do, in fact, choose a topic to talk to them about if they're already in my database, inviting them to something that I have going on, like a Zoom or a webinar for it. Because I have a ton of information about parents helping their children be able to get into houses or helping them get prepared, or even you if you feel like your children might be moving out soon. So I want to give them a resource. I made a lot of resources for home buyers, asset guides and things like that. So I have a lot of things to pick and choose from depending on their level of participation at that moment. So I do have to start with something, give them a little breadcrumbs, right? Whether it's a guide that they can use. Hey, I have something I want you to take a look at. Like, what are you thinking about doing? There's a great way to be able to get your kids involved in this. Um, One thing I've been using recently is on TikTok, a big trend, which I was super excited about because they have a trend on TikTok that's the great lock-in. And they're supposed to be locking in from October 1st to the end of December on what it looks like to save and be able to prepare financially to be able to move or buy a house or whatever that looks like over 90 days, which is interesting because, again, they didn't do it our way, right? They didn't show up to a home buyer education class, but they're going to do the great lock-in. So that's a great intro right now during this period that all the kids can look up on TikTok. They'll know exactly what you're talking about, but it might give them a way to look at their finances differently, what they're spending, even if they're 20 years old. They can lock in, eliminate not needed expenses, see how much their bank account grows, and really get that mindset for ownership going forward. And that's a great tool because the parents now have something to talk to their kids about too and can really relate on their level.
So I would love to hear how you do this. So, and I love this just for myself. Like we've all, if you're an ambassador on this call, you've got this link, firsthomeiq.com/ your name. It's got your picture in it and it's got a score. So like literally, here's 15 questions for homeownership readiness. Now, by the way, I would love to hear your words. I always say, hey, here's a 5-minute free quiz that will not only let you know where you stand from a homeownership readiness standpoint, but you'll learn and you'll self-evaluate. And then it's got these 3 places. One of my favorites is this video library where we've got all these free YouTube videos that cover everything from how to make a financial plan, how to grow your money mindset. How would you have a conversation with either a family or someone who's renting and promote this personal quiz? Like how would you approach that?
You'll never achieve the goal if you don't start somewhere. And that's just me relating with them on a real life level. You if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And this is your opportunity to be able to check out what that looks like now. You have to dip your foot into the pool to be able to get started and be better. Even if you get another rental right now, it's strange enough. I've had people that couldn't get a rental, but I could get them in a home. Interesting trajectory in home ownership that it's changing to that. Rental requirements are becoming higher. One leasing company said that the buyer had to net 3 times the payment. That means the front end could only be about 36%. So I'm again taking in all this data, and I feel the education is just as valuable if their next immediate move, or we're just now seeding home ownership to them. So if they can take that quiz, it'll really be able to get them started, dip your foot into the pool, see if you align with where you think you're at, and then we can move on to this next step. And I've got all these resources for you to be able to check out to make your lifestyle more financially stable. Your credit and all these things work together to affect everything in your life, including your renter's insurance, your car insurance, all these things that are getting more expensive in the world. I know that by starting this, it's going to save you money immediately in some way, shape, or form.
So I want to go a little deeper on that because I think we in the mortgage business, myself included, generational wealth. We have our slogan, "Own your future." You said some things that I don't typically say, like what was it? Control your lifestyle. You said something about get control of your lifestyle a little
Oh,
bit.
it affects everything that we do right now, and prices are out of control. So you can check inflation with simply doing some of the things that we normally strictly have reserved for home ownership. And that is a great opener for anybody that's out there right now. Your car insurance, you're paying that because maybe your credit score could be optimized a little bit more to be able to have a better rate. Like there's so much more that ties into everyday life now when it comes to like what we've always said, financial literacy just for buying. It's affecting their cost in everything right now.
So you'll save money on more things.
Yes.
Got it. All
On
right.
all the things right now. Like, hey, it's rough outside, right? If you start this, it's not just for ownership. Ownership is the end goal, but we're going to get you on this path and it's going to save you money. And when they can see kind of that carrot that's more immediate, or say they weren't even thinking about home ownership and you're getting on this first call with them, or you're doing a class or something of that nature, it's a great way to preface it that it helps in everyday life because it will.
What I love about your approach is that you are validating their feelings. Like people are overwhelmed, they are struggling. Finances are very stressful topic for a lot of people, and there's so much baggage around it. And I feel like you approach that as we talked about, you're addressing their overwhelm, you are validating their feelings, and then you're educating, you're giving them knowledge, but you're also empowering them by using tools. And so you go beyond just the education. And I'd love for you to speak a little bit to the tools that you utilize. You've been on our down payment resource webinar, and anyway, just speak to a little bit of some of those that are kind of core to the work that you're doing with first time home buyers.
I love down payment assistance, but I love it for the missing middle is what I like to call it. There are people that I have qualified for mortgages that just didn't pull the trigger. We are in a very payment forward environment where people used to shop for I need a 4-bedroom house or I want a house that's 500,000 or less. Now, if those two things check the box but the payment doesn't, they're not going to go forward and buy. So I love being able to help people leverage any pool of money, whether it's their own, whether it's a gift, whether it's adding down payment assistance in the mix to either do a larger down payment. Because I know historically speaking, we're always looking at people like, if you don't have the money, then you need to go down payment assistance. I'm looking at it differently. I'm trying to get people off the sidelines in order to buy that think that maybe if the payment was $100 lower, maybe we use down payment assistance to buy down the rate because there are down payment programs now that do let you buy down the rate, leverage seller concessions, all these things. So it's part of my arsenal to be able to use like down payment resource, identify where the money is. And part of that also I'll use credit expert. I'm always giving two options. So mortgage coach is clutch. I will say that it's definitely clutch because I don't want a buyer. And I'm telling you guys this because if you're in my market, know that I'm savage. This is what I do. Okay. Pun intended, Dave.
I
Um,
was just gonna go there. No
like
pun.
that. I am savage when it comes to someone comes to me and I can see what they qualify for immediately and I can give them a payment estimate. But what I do immediately, because I don't want to be shopped against my competitors, I don't want them going out in the world to get additional education that I may not have given them. It's this space that we live in where buyers these days, because there's so much information readily available, it's the sin of omission. They might stop using you because they feel you omitted something. So even if I find the thing that they qualify for, I'm looking for a near miss program for them at all times. So say their FICO score is 660. Say a 680 credit score makes their payment a little bit less or the mortgage insurance less on a conventional. It's not even just for people that have low scores. It's for people that have a 720 that a 740 gets them a better rate on a jumbo loan or opens up a different program. So I'm always doing that near miss running a credit expert maybe to see what that could do for them, or if it's attainable based on the financial goals they've told me, even if I have to leverage down payment assistance to get them to that next level. And I'm giving them that second estimate immediately. This is what it would look like if you do the things that I labeled out for you. And let's compare those two payments for you. And they love it. And then if they go to shop somewhere else, now my competition also has to be up to my standard, as because I gave them all the things up front. I didn't just leave them with that one estimate. I wanted to look for that near miss opportunity. And it happens a lot just in loans in general, because you can look at the LLPA levels, right? Based on credit score, mortgage insurance levels. I can't miss out on quoting somebody. And even if it's just they qualify for only FHA, well, let me give you FHA down payment assistance. Let me find that one program that I can give you those two comparisons out the gates. You're not going to leave me without two options.
So I'm going to ask you another question for a script that I know you're one of the best I've ever heard at this script, but I want to remind everybody, if there is a phrase, a script, a question you have for Mosi, put that in chat. We will definitely get to it. I've already seen some positive feedback. I know people are loving this, Mosi. So you are one of the top mortgage professionals in the country at helping people with down payment assistance programs. I mean, that's how we met. Is I heard about you by reputation that you had helped more families successfully use down payment resources. And you, by the way, you don't just call it down payment resource. You have some different language around that. So, and we know the misconceptions around down payment is holding back millions of people from homeownership. I mean, like millions of people have a misconception, and our industry hasn't figured out how to effectively communicate this. Like, we're not at scale effectively communicating and bringing clarity to America around this. So I almost want to hear a one-to-one. How do you one-to-one introduce the down payment? Get into that conversation. And I also want to hear kind of a one-to-many, like if you were literally talking to a group of people, whether they were parents or kids, how you would do one-to-one and how you would do one-to-many on that specific topic.
I try to remove the stigma, like you said, that's maybe attached for it. I find that Kristen and I met, and this is where we nerded out a little bit when we first met. I wanted to really understand the psychology of the modern day home buyer, and how when we say things mentally, they say, oh, that's not for me, and they turn us off, right? So when I'm saying down payment assistance, all the things that hop into their head are, there's probably income limits. It's probably going to be a higher rate. It's probably not going to be for me. I won't qualify. So they've went through an elimination process on their own before I even get a chance to get too far into it. And I don't want people to do that. I'm the professional. Let me pull your credit. Let me tell you what we can and can't do. So to be able to cast a wider net, I remove that stigma of calling it some type of assistance in most cases. So if I'm doing a one-to-many, I can talk about how to leverage state money, how to leverage other people's money to purchase a home. It's that simple, because it is leveraging somebody else's money. And I feel that money and wealth are in fact leverage. And that's what everybody wants. When you have wealth, you can pass it down however you want. Like I said, you can leave it all to your cat if that's who you have, right? Without me putting walls around what that needs to look like. And assistance, typically in any form or shape, comes with restrictions and often requires that you make minimal money in order to get it. So I love to talk about leveraging, other people's money to be able to purchase a home. And
Other people's
great
money.
investment, right? Because you can't go get money from other people to put into Bitcoin or in your Robinhood account or however these younger people might invest. But for this investment, you can leverage other people's money, and we can figure out how that works for you. And on a one-to-one, I'll talk to them about their goals and see if they would be, I don't even ask them if they're interested. I ask them, would you be upset if I could get you money to maybe limit how much money you have to come out of pocket with? 100% of the time it's yes. And it is not bound to an income limitation. Again, there are now down payment programs that have no income limitation. It's all based on leveraging it for those goals I got when I was asking them to tell me more.
Boom. So other people's money. How
Other
would,
people's money.
it's not, I want to talk to you
Would
about
you
down
be
payment. You
upset if
support.
I got some additional money that you can use toward your payment, or so you can keep some money in your bank? I think that's another thing we don't think of. I have a lot of kids, two are in college. If you make the decision for me that I might not be open to it, that's why I said mortgage coach comes in clutch. Tell them that. If you ask them to tell you more, you're going to know who in the house is going to college, what their expenses are going to be in the next year or two. And the fact of the matter, with consumer confidence the way it is right now in the United States, there are qualified people who are just saying, I don't want to do it right now. They want security. Okay. So security is keeping your money in your bank. And we have to be the ones to explain that to them and build this around what their needs are. 100% of the time, one of the first questions I get, even from professional athletes, is what kind of deals can I get for buying in Las Vegas? Everybody's looking for a deal. We've just made it in our business to where we've only propositioned down payment assistance to those who don't necessarily have money, but there are people that do have money that can take one of these programs that don't have an income limitation or have 140, 150% of the income range, right? To be able to buy, and maybe buy now instead of waiting. We're eliminating those reasons that they're making up in their head that they shouldn't go forward with a purchase or they shouldn't consider ownership right now.
Love it. So guys, I'm going to create a few clips from that and put it in the Uncommon LO. If you are not following Uncommon LO on Instagram or TikTok, or both, if you use both Instagram and TikTok, and both Kristen and I have interviewed Mosi before, and I had already told Paul, my executive assistant, that hey, we need to get Mosi in the Uncommon LO. So follow it, and within a couple days, maybe even tomorrow, we'll have a clip from Monet in there. That was awesome.
Thank you.
One thing that we've been talking about recently, Dave and I have been talking about how many people are like could qualify but are hanging out in the sidelines, and they're waiting for rates to drop a lot of times, or they are feeling overwhelmed and they are just shut down. But one of the things that came up recently in that financial literacy report edition of our Next Gen Homebuyer report was that so many people just think that the down payment needs to be 20%. It was like 90% of people couldn't answer the minimum down payment question correctly, and around 50% thought you needed 20% down. So I'm sure you come across that really frequently, and other myths that just keep people from making steps forward. I'd love for you to expand a little bit more on, I guess, like how you're talking people through those decisions, helping people not to shut down and feel overwhelmed by all of this. And maybe this gets into some of the other, language kinds of things that come up around what kinds of language to use.
Wow, that's a good question. I think in talking to them, because I don't start out taking an app, I don't sound like a box checker to them, right? Um, I don't want the process to feel like an application to them. It is, let's talk through this process. Yes, I get a lot of information that goes on my app, but that's not how I present it to the consumer, because it is that overwhelming thing where they just feel like you're scrutinizing them, right? Um, so being able to give them the information, and I try to give them some time to digest it and come up with questions. And I might send them, say, my mortgage coach comparison and say, hey, I'm going to send this to you now. Can you hop on the call tomorrow at 9? Perfect. We're going to talk about it. I want to know how you feel about it. And I use the word feel. I don't want to just know what you think, because their mind is blown. They don't know what to do right now. But I want to know how you feel about it. How'd you feel about the payment? Is it overwhelming to you? Do you feel this is something that really meets your needs? Because we can adjust the price downward or adjust your goals. And I also explain to them how their agent, I tell them I have the easy part. I'm going to figure out what they qualify for. But let me tell you what I need your agent to do now. They're going to shop for a house for you. But when you're shopping for a house, you're also shopping your financial package. It is part of the shopping process now, because I need the agent if there's incentives on the table. And I'm going to tell them how we use that to affect the bottom line that I'm showing. what I'm showing you up front is not your end all be all, but because I'm talking through it and involving the part about shopping, they understand it a little bit better than what I hear most people say is, well, if your agent can negotiate X, Y, and Z, you know, it's talking to them, showing them that bottom line. And then, okay, if your agent was able to negotiate $5,000 toward closing cost, or the house you told me you looked at, you know, it's a home builder, they are paying this. So if you take that house, we would deduct this amount from it. You see how that impacts it? They really love that. But yes, you are shopping your financial package when you're shopping for a house now. And we work so much with agents to help people reach the financial goal, not just the bedroom count, bathroom count, and where the house is. That's the old way of thinking what real estate is. We are shopping the financials, and I'm just giving you preliminary information on what that could look like. So this is just step one. But I want to go through the feelings and get them out there so I don't have people quiet canceling me, which is when they kind of disappear because they literally, right? You send them an estimate, you talk about payment, they're like, no way. I'm like, I'm going to send this to you, but I want to hop on a call. Do you have some time? I'll send it to them. We're going to go through those feelings. We're going to work through it right there. Like, here's your tissues. Let's go. Let's cry about it, whatever it takes, but don't be overwhelmed. And then I'll give you also the time that you need. And then I get the agent involved and we continue to tell them, like, we're working on this together with you. And it gives them just a more secure feeling. They feel like they're getting all of the information. And one thing they also say is they're not getting this experience with other people.
So I love that, feeling, the mosaic on how do you feel script. Write that down, everybody. And then I want you to write down, if you have a pen and paper handy, like 3 words. And this is a framework that I've used for over a decade when I do podcast conversations like this. I do it by habit now, but it's think, what do I want them to think? What do I want them to feel, and do. Think, feel, do. And mortgage professionals, by and large, are focused on think and do, think and do. They don't focus on feel. And then real estate agents don't do the think very well, they do the feel. How do you feel? And where the real power of influence and where the real transformational power with the consumer is when you can get them to think, feel, and do. By the way, not what you want to do, but what's in their best interests and what's right for them. So, and I also want to unpack something that Mosi said. So she's giving them the mortgage coach. That's visually, and that's think. Like, these are the numbers. This is the math. And she's making that easy. And then she's focusing her emotional connection on how do you feel now? So, by the way, that was a master class right there for everyone, that if
Those
you can
feelings will prevent
think,
people from
feel,
buying.
do, have the numbers, find out how they feel, like, you're going to help people self-actualize their dreams and what's right for them.
I want to be with them when they walk through that process so they don't go into a shame spiral of what it's going to cost, which, like I said, in this payment forward environment, the payment, it matching what they can get out in the market or not is really huge because people will go shop and say, well, for what you told me the payment is, I'm not getting what I want to get. So having those conversations and even bringing the agent into a group conversation over houses, or the agent sending the home to me and the buyer and me requoting, when they find a home that they like, I update their quotes as the offer is going in. I'm copied on all the offers. So I've been able to get agents on board with me in doing this. So our conversion rate is higher. So they know I'm going to have a conversation to start with. I get connected by text. Sometimes they'll book on my Calendly for all of us to hop on a call. And that's where I'm asking them, so what are you looking to accomplish? I want to hear from you. It's not me just taking name, address, like, okay, what are you looking to do? What's your payment max? What's your comfortability for cash to come out of pocket? I want them to express their feelings around it. And then even if I give them 2 options, is this is what you qualify for, but this is what you told me you wanted to have.
Yeah.
Now they can see it actualized, right, on actual paper as to what the difference might be. And then when their agent comes along and starts showing them houses, they see what that spectrum is and what they're getting for what they want and they're getting for what they qualify for. And then if we need to have additional conversation about Well, do you want to pay off debt? Because again, maybe we incorporate down payment assistance so they can pay off another debt to feel more comfortable with the payment. That's why it's important for me to ask them how they feel about it, because the conversion is there.
What do you, by the way, call the mortgage coach? Do you call it a mortgage coach? Like what are the words or the language that you use? You know, some people call it total cost analysis, some people call it mortgage coach, some people have entirely different titles that they put on it. What do you call it?
I tell them, I'm going to send you your two payment comparison. I wanted to give you the two side by side so you can see how they compete with each other and what might be best for you. Because like I said, mine, it will vary depending on what the reason is that I gave it. Because again, they're going to tell me what they want. But I'm gonna tell you what, what we do as loan officers, right? It's like you told me what you want, but I may not be able to make that come true the way you put it together. But here's a scenario that I wanted to show you so you can see what that would do for your payments and how it helps you get the house that you want, the size, what have you, and what do we need to bring into this fold to make home ownership possible, but also your checklist of where you need that to land. So I just, your payment comparison worksheet, but I explain why I did it up front and what I came up with and kind of break it down a little bit more in my email with it to let them know why I sent the two.
Got it.
So good. I am obsessed. I've already sent messages to my team of where I want clips added to my presentations on, I've been talking a lot about trust in the age of AI and yeah, just continue
Because
to
they're going to
stand
ask somebody,
out.
right, Kristen? They're going to, if you
Exactly.
don't tell them that sin of omission, they're like, man, I went on Zillow and Zillow said my payment's this. But in this process that's crazy with me telling them comparisons, I'm also saying, hey, I'm not including any rate buy down. Let me tell you what that is. That means I show you a lower rate, but I increase your cost. I tried to keep the cost where you told me you were happy. That's
Hmm.
the feeling part of this that I've incorporated into your estimates. If we can get more money or you're comfortable paying more money, what we do is we get a lower rate. So when they go to, I won't say specific names of mortgage companies, they traditionally online have all these AI resources, these things you could access online. They're quoting 1, 2, 3 points included. I know that's outside of my client's happy place because I modeled this based on their happy place, but I told them how to shop. Again, my conversion stays intact. I am the trusted professional because I explained this is why I did this. It matches your feelings, right? Where you need to be. But let me tell you how we can continue to evolve and impact this comparison if we wanted to spend more money. And we can get that from the seller, or for instance, if you wanted to put in more money. I just like to do it up front because they don't get away from me. The buyers stay with me. They don't get quoted and run.
Yeah, so good. So I mean, you're having incredible conversations. You're like we've talked about expressing that empathy while educating, building that trust. I'm curious, and at this point, I know you have status, you have connections, you've built a network, but how are you maybe coaching team members to reach out? Like, how are you getting those leads and doing that in a way that is building trust in communities that often are not very trusting of loan officers?
I am one to where to this day I have no fear, and I think that that's probably the best. It outweighs the connections I have. I have no fear. So I will email. I did an email blast to a bunch of human resource representatives. And what I did was I talked literally from my heart and also about people's feelings. I talked to them about what their employees' feelings are. I said, I know benefits are expensive right now for corporations, but I also know your employees are yearning for stable housing. It's like the number one thing on all people's minds of being able to create a stable roof over their head, whether it be renting or home ownership. So, what I've done is I've developed a program to be able to engage employees via Zoom, educational materials to be able to start the process of stabilizing the roof over their head and working toward home ownership. and I'd like to participate with you. The way it helps you as an employer is these people that get into programs like this really get in there to figure out what they can do by improving their credit, increasing their savings, and working toward home ownership or improving their current home ownership status means they're going to be your next managers. They're going to be the people that will be the higher ups at your company, and it creates the best employees because they're going to be the hustlers that come to work. I had several HR people call me back and engage me to be able to be put in front of their employees. Because again, it served their needs. I was able to speak to their needs and also the employees' needs. So I get welcomed into health and wellness fairs for employees on their campuses here. I'm in Las Vegas, but many big corporations have campuses where they have their training rooms and things like that. And I can talk about what this means, and they know that it tackles the number one thing on the news, which is we have a housing crisis, right? It's in the news, and who doesn't want a free benefit? It is expensive for companies to do benefits. And I do the same with CPAs and things like that, being able to have options. So it's great. People that are HR reps and what have you will have people across all income levels, but they really want to engage their worker bees that work for them, which tend to be younger, maybe more diverse, right? And then otherwise, they're not seeking out people because, again, mentally, if they don't feel they have a problem or they have a need, I'm here to create that need. Let them know how they have that need to start this process with me, whether they know it or not. Like I said, because it does affect all aspects of your life. It will affect the way you rent next time as much as it will own because of the requirements to rent. And they've all felt it and ran into it. I think we talked about this a year or so ago. When you figure out 2.5 to 3 times the rent, that is literally a 41% debt ratio. So when an apartment complex wants 2.5 to 3 times the rent to rent, I employ everybody, go check, call apartment complexes, check online at apartments.com at the requirements. They'll tell you. Unlike us, someone calls us and says, what's your requirements? We say, well, there's these requirements. I need your income. Apartment complexes are upfront, 2.5 to 3 times the rent. Figure out what 2.5 to 3 times the rent is at the apartment complexes and where people live. It's a great way for you to maybe pop up and do an event with the apartment complex. A lot of apartment complexes are also paying real estate agents that refer buyers to them for temporary housing. So there is a lot of opportunity in this market right now. And I just use what's out there as rumors to be able to help people get exposure to me and maybe a new way of thinking. I don't even think of it all the time that I'm educating them. It's what I do for a living. I had my um, water filter system replaced, and I couldn't do it if I wanted to, and I didn't want to know how to do it. But he never told me he needed to educate me. He did show me how to he put a on-off switch underneath the sink in the RO system, and I didn't have one before. So he's like, hey, just so you know, if you need to turn this off. I felt he was just giving me game or giving me the information that I would need to be better next time. So instead of telling them I'm educating, it's like, hey, I'm just here to give you what I know because it's often not taught in schools. And man, you can just get better rates on everything in life, rates, insurance, your next car you buy by starting this process and being aware of where you stand.
Wow, I'm excited about that, all of it. But that last little
Yeah.
bit, I was like, oh my, we need to share that with everybody. The way you're framing education, not as something that's like, let me give you education, but also the HR strategy is something that we've had a lot of ambassadors talking about doing, and we may create a little committee around that for people who are interested. So, I think there's a big opportunity there. Um, so as we're thinking about closing up, I cannot believe we're at the end of this hour. I could talk to you forever, but I would love to hear if for let's say for ambassadors on the call, what is one action someone could take this week or over the next week that you would recommend they do to reach more first-time home buyers?
For first-time home buyers immediately, I say, first of all, talk to the agents that you work with. Agents don't often know the connections that they have at their fingertips. I have more recently gotten more bold in how I talk to agents because even if they have a best friend that's a head of HR, they will never get invited to come in and talk about how they're going to sell them a house. But because I partner with them, I can get us both in there to really talk about what it means to increase where you stand financially, credit wise, to be able to leverage credit in a different way, including ownership. We can do that together. So what I did with the agents that I work with, and I'm talking to agents on a larger scale, is I tell them like, let's do a worksheet, almost like a calling tree that you would make, and let's talk about your sphere of influence and how you can create this into sales for you, but also us reaching more people together. Because they're thinking on a one-to-one. I got someone that called me. Here's somebody that wants to talk to you about getting qualified, Mosi. Yeah, I can't roll like that anymore. You know, it does need to be on a more like a one-to-many situation or a one-to-multiple people situation instead of the one. But agents don't think like that. So it is a value for all of us as LOs to be able to call them and sit them down and go through who their sphere of influence is and how you can help them make scripts to contact them and say, hey, I have a team that does X. I don't even tell them to tell my name, my position. This is something we're going to work on together. And any of those people that I do get and qualify and get through this process, I'm going to send to that agent. So I can work on a one-to-many situation with many different agents. So I said that that is like the first thing that you could do that's like super low-hanging fruit. Go through that and maybe set up a call with some masterminding with your agents that you work with or people that you know, and think of your sphere of influence a little bit differently and what your value proposition is. It's not just ownership. It helps a person be better overall to do the things that FirstHome IQ says you should do. That from that credit quiz all the way forward, it helps all facets of life.
Love it. So good. Any closing thoughts, Dave?
It's so good. I mean, I just think we as an industry and every person on this call, we can do better at bringing not financial literacy. Let's like that is our word,
Yes.
but bringing personal empowerment, personal enlightenment around whatever the parents' dreams and goals are, whatever the kids' dreams and goals are, just helping people by meeting them where they're at. So I recommend re-listening to this. And I know Kristen's gonna pull some clips and we'll share those to the FirstHome IQ community. I know at the new platform that I'm leading, the community within a community, Uncommon LO, follow it, Instagram, TikTok.
I
We
will be
just
following
we
it.
want to do better. Like let's do
Yeah.
better.
I
And
think it's a
share
great way to
share
get
that with
interest
everybody.
in this market though. Whereas, you know, maybe business is down for people. You just got to think of it, flip it on its head and think of it in a new way. You don't need permission from the agencies. It's all compliant, I promise. You're just modernizing this thought of what opportunity in housing is at the street level. Because if you meet people where they are, on the level that they are, the way they talk and think, which is most people that are online, right? You're going to be able to capture them. Some people want great one-liners and clips just to put online. It doesn't always convert to business, but if you can get within your sphere to start with, man, you can start some really radical conversations and you're going to see your connections grow. So if any of you apply any of this, please let Dave and Kristen know, post it in the community that you took a tip that we talked about and who you get introduced to because you took a different value prop forward on what housing would be for someone. And I promise that's how you're going to get the connections that I ended up getting. It was because I had no fear in what I was saying up front to really realign that proposition to people who want ownership.
Yeah, and you
No,
gave
they
me a
ownership.
thought hearing that is I really want everyone who's listening, think of 5 people in your database, because again, you got to win your database, you got to win your local market, that you'd be comfortable having this conversation with around helping their family and their kids uh, achieve whatever their homeownership goal is for their family. And then start taking that to your database and really like it's not good enough just to do an annual review for someone and manage their mortgage and be top of mind so that when they buy a home again, that's not good enough anymore. Like what's good enough is that that family knows how to help support their entire family and their families' families. Like let's that's how you're going to make change. So this has been great, Mose. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. You know, I love you to death. I appreciate you and the community. Thanks everybody for showing up. Excited to see what you may be able to get out of it. don't wait until the new year. What you're doing right now is going to dictate your first quarter of 2026.
Let's go. Love all those reactions.
Yeah, so good. Thank you guys so much.
Take care, everybody.
Well,
Bye.
bye.